Goeiemorgen, or Guten Tag, or Guten Morgen? Yes, maybe something like that. I haven't really learned enough German or brushed up on it recently. And I'm in Lake Pelansee or something like that. I think it's southwest of Munich. And I'm going there to pick up a friend from New Zealand. And there's my chicken shit son. He won't he won't even come on this. He doesn't like you know, boardwalks and bridges and things like that for the best part. Anyway, so I've been all around Austria, now I've got Germany. And what I wanted to speak about this morning was the Julian Assange thing. I saw that when I was in Austria, and I didn't really want to do a video at the time because I was having fun snowboarding. But what does it mean for us all? What it means really, I think, is whatever you want to call it, the elite, the powers that be, the deep state, whatever it is. It's either them quaking in their boots and shitting themselves, making an example out of Julian Assange, the same way a mobster would make an example out of someone who didn't pay up. The same thing, right? And what the other thing it could be is seeing how far they can push us, we the masses of idiots who buy their shit, as far as their products and, you know, the whole thing the system seemingly provides, but actually doesn't, because the system is a net loss, as I've said many times, and it will always repeat until it's gone or until I'm gone. Sometimes truths don't become untrue just because everyone else thinks the opposite. And I had a very funny thing this morning. One of the guys that works for us sometimes, you know, he's probably on the right track, probably has the capacity to be a red-pilled person, but is really one of those people who believes, at this stage anyway, that he has all the answers, got an economics degree, and the old, you know, and the old paradigm that is dying right now, and the whole paradigm is based upon bullshit, fake money. He understands that much at least, yet still chooses to take part in it. Still believes of some kind of intellectual superiority, but because of the fact that he is. Really sad. But I mean, you know, I don't want to judge people too much, because, you know, all it takes is the penny dropping to realize what your enslavement is. When I mentioned system slavery, he was, some of the things he said were very template, such as my tiny house on wheels, the fact that it has a microwave developed by NASA. Yeah, how many trillions did NASA spend trying to develop things for their use? Or you know, how much technology, software technology, did the NSA use? How much could they have made by mining Bitcoin instead of trying to hack it instead? You know, all the financial institutions included there. The truth is, they are grossly inefficient. And then he gave the example of companies not realizing, of course, that we don't have capitalism, we have crony capitalism. You know, I think once before, he's made a few excuses for the broadband speeds in the USA. Let me just clarify this right now. There is no excuse for the country that invented the internet to have the shittest internet service. And I mean the shittest internet service in the developed world. By a long shot. I get better internet service in the countryside in Austria, Bulgaria, France, than I can get in most cities in the USA. And that's from a mobile, then using a hotspot from a mobile, right? It is completely unacceptable, the internet service in the US. Not that internet's the most important thing in the world, but the thing that arose last night when we were speaking about this topic, because again, it's funny how people will give you conspiracy and yet they will grasp at straws to support the system being good that they know is not good. So the example, the case in point here, is net neutrality, which he reckons will be unrepealed and put back in place again. I said it doesn't matter. The test that I did to compare Sprint, AT&T and Comcast and actually Comcast and AT&T side by side in the same house. Those tests proved conclusively that the US, even during the time where before what's it called, net neutrality was repealed, they were not obeying it. In my opinion, the only reason it was repealed was to actually mitigate risk from these companies from getting sued for not obeying the law in the first place, right? Because they never were obeying the law. Net neutrality never really took effect, and his excuse was, again, on behalf of the system. So it doesn't mind making excuses on behalf of the system, but won't look at any joining the dots as anything but conspiracy theory. Never mind the fact that the proof is all around him. And this is the sort of shit you'll see every day from blue-pilled people. They will protect their delusions. They will protect their shit lives. They'll say shit to you when you wake up and actually free yourself. They'll go, oh, you're really lucky. So yesterday, can't remember who it was, someone else, I think in New Zealand, was saying, oh, you lucky bugger. No, it's Australia, Bronnie, is it? She goes, you lucky bugger. And luck has nothing to do with it. I've taken risks to have a free life, and yes, I can go back and live in a house now, because I also was part of the blue pill society, system slavery, working away. Yes, I made good wages, but I also made shit wages for a long time as well. I think overall I made average wages if you look at my life, and then given the fact that time is priceless, I made shit wages. Because you know who's making, I wouldn't say worth their life and wages, but the super rich elite who can, like people like Steve Jobs, right? He's an innovator, he's done great things, he deserves to be rich, yes. To deserve to have the money that a country with hundreds of thousands to a few million hard-working people in it, not just lazy people, but hard-working people and smart people, there's something wrong in the equation there, right? You didn't free mankind, you gave them one more tool to use. And that tool, the iPhone, was, well, you take a lot of the parts inside it, it wasn't really innovative. It was stuff from Samsung, it was stuff from NASA even, because the cell phone's a lot, like they say, made up by parts from NASA. The battery technology and all sorts of stuff. So really all I did is put all things into one. Didn't invent the smartphone either, because that was the Simon, so that was done before them. It didn't invent the actual touchscreen phone either, because that was already done with capacitive touch with other phones, such as in early series Nokia touch phones, like the 9700 series, things like that. So, but what he did is he made it better, and he made it have a certain look and feel. Now where it's lost, even among the Apple community now, I had the 3G, the 3GS, the 4, and then I left at 4. I got back into Apple again and left it again. I don't think I'd ever go back to it now. It always feels too restrictive. There's some things I love about it, that it goes fast, but it always goes, what's the word? It always becomes cumbersome to use, despite the fact the camera always stays fast. What I can't stand about these Samsungs is that they always slow down eventually, right? Probably bloat software, things like that. Anyway, my point is that all these innovations were not government benevolence. Government is still a net loss. I agree that there are things that they would make easier, such as having a police force might track down a serial killer easier. But the thing is, when you have no government in place and no government trying to ruin your culture by installing multiculturalism, which is actually destruction of culture, no other way. That's why Japan has one of the strongest cultures in the world, and you can actually leave your, as I showed in one video, leave your money sitting in a crowd of people, and a ring will form around it, which will then get wider and wider. People just don't want to be near it. It's almost embarrassing to be near the money in case people think that you might be a thief. That's how culture can actually improve things. You don't need to have necessarily so many cops looking around for someone who did something, because you're breeding insanity in your uncultured place. All right, it's not multicultured, it's uncultured, because all you're really doing is breaking down the cultural norms of every culture within that by the conflict of every other culture. That's what's really happening. but we were sold it the wrong way. I believed that I drank the Kool-Aid. Now I can see better. It really annoys me when people who still think what I used to think, and they think they know more than I do. They think they're more enlightened than I am because they think how I used to think. It's just, it's really insulting, but you put up with it anyway. So anyway, so all these innovations and things, these innovations did not come from government. We already had governments in place. We didn't innovate that quickly, okay? These innovations came from a mixture of a few things. One is capitalism, wherever it's been allowed to occur. So capitalism is sometimes allowed to occur, but generally when it comes to big deals, especially in places like the UK and America, you're going to get selected to be allowed to do something, right? So in the case of dropping internet across America, you simply just can't come in there like Google tried to do and start laying fiber. Good luck. Now that would be capitalism, but you don't have capitalism, you have crony capitalism, which where the government protects large companies and the large companies pay to line the pockets of the people in government, those shills in government, right? So overall what you have is a hindrance of capitalism. You also have the false benevolence of socialism. And I've got no problem with socialism in certain things, like, say, for example, disabled people can't work. People have generally been out of work for a while. I just think that as a former believer in socialism, I can see its flaws. Again, I've been where you have. I've unindoctrinated myself from the Kool-Aid that I drank. You know what I mean? And the simple fact is, as a former beneficiary, the simple fact is that you will often, and usually, you will often inhibit your growth as a person because you're getting a free handout, where if you actually had to bust your balls and make it, you would have, even by accident, found success. It only takes a few good ideas and a few good failures to make success. I've had a few successes, I've had a lot of failures. You know, it's a numbers game, really, unless you're a complete moron and every single thing you choose is a harebrained scheme like the movie with the 2-minute abs and it goes down to 60-second abs or something stupid like that. You know what I mean? No, 2-minute abs. So yeah, what I'm saying really is, overall, the reason we have progressed is because of the discovery of oil being one. That allowed a few things. What allowed rampant consumerism, which is why we required growth to vindicate and justify the monetary system that we have, which relies upon continually adding zeros in the end to allow it to continue to exist, because of the fractional reserve system and the fact that you're giving things at an interest rate, therefore require more money in the money supply to pay the interest, right? It's a flawed system. It always has been and always will be until it collapses, which could be very soon and should be very soon. The US dollar still going strong, oldest currency in the world. Why? Because it's the petrodollar. It's linked like in the same kind of mafia tactics. It's, you want to buy Iraqi oil? You want to buy our money? That's how it works. So if you take away the bullying aspect, and by the way, they can't continue to bully the whole world all the time with nuclear weapons. If you take away the media power telling us, hey, here's our enemy, this to justify wars. They're an enemy, now Venezuela's an enemy, then Syria was an enemy. Bullshit, all lies, but we believe it. We got WMDs over there. No WMDs, and no, but sorry, there are WMDs somewhere, and I'm sure if we look, Tony Blair should be hanged, right? All the British soldiers that died, all the American soldiers that died, same as George Bush, nothing happens to them, right? Now, when people like my colleagues say to me this morning, or write to me, that they excuse that, oh, you know, the system's not perfect, but, oh, fuck you, the system's not perfect, but the system is absolutely abhorrent. And don't make excuses to say that these, you know, NASA come up with this. What, with the few $1 trillion we're given, they came up with technology. But bravo, you know what I mean? Trillions of dollars. And not just that, the NSA and them and the FBI and the CIA taking your money to hide information from you. Pissed off not because Assange Hey? Not because he published the truth. No. Oh, actually, no. That's why they were pissed off. Because he published the truth. His sole crime in life was not hacking anything. That's a whole fucking red herring. His whole crime in life was publishing information which others brought to him. The exact thing that CNN, MSNBC, BBC, Fox, fucking all the other channels, Al Jazeera, are supposed to do, but don't. So what we're really seeing right now, if you're happy with him being arrested because no Americans died, whoa, how fucking stupid you are to think like that. Because if you really give a fuck about Americans dying, then what about the illegal wars that CNN ushered in? Telling us about WMDs that didn't exist, killing 1 million Iraqis, killing and displacing hundreds of thousands of Syrians, and making it so that the elite can have their children as fuck machines, because that's what's really happening now. Every time you have a refugee crisis, you'll always find the UN there. And what are the UN there for? They're a massive paedophile ring. That's all they are. They're there to take more money. They're there. When people like Helen Clark from New Zealand, and people who were, and she was in power three times, who are actually social engineers. That's what they are. Lesbian social engineers, people like that. When people like her retire, they get a job in the UN. Now, I know some good people who work in the UN as well, right? And also family of the. So Dr. Schmallenbach stayed with out in Thailand, right? So he's the UN ambassador to Southeast Asia, or he was back then. And my other friend Anthony worked for the UN. His wife actually wrote some of the constitution for Afghanistan. But now I look back on some of these things, and I think, was our involvement really good? And I know now it's not. It was for corporate interests. We think we are the masters of our own destiny, and all we are is the tail wagging a dog. Well, we're trying to be anyway, and it's not working because we're being driven by well, actually, we are the dog being wagged by the tail. That's what's happening, yeah. So anyway, there's a movie like that years ago. It had all those big usual names and the guys who are allowed to be famous in Hollywood. Your Jack Nicholson, I think, and all those sort of people, and Dustin Hoffman, and maybe those certain people were allowed to be in movies back then. You ever notice how narrow the pool is? Who's allowed to be in a film? Until they say something that someone doesn't like. Then they're not allowed to be in a film anymore because we apparently don't want them to be, which is fucking bullshit. It's the people, the producers, who are also part of an agenda. It would seem. I don't know for certain. I will always stop short of saying something as a fact until it is. Certain facts are annoying when they're called conspiracy theories. For example, like the fractional reserve system, the financial system, the two different species of bird having a fight. That's weird. What the fuck? One second. I just got to rescue a little bird being attacked by a crow. One second. Fuck it. Rumble, come here. Rumble. Rumble. She's deaf now, dog. Rumble. Rumble, come here.